Hi everybody and welcome to the Saturday Surfers Interval in association with Mpora. Weird diving inventions. So for most normal people, scuba diving equipment is already fairly odd or at least unusual to them. They describe like hoses and flippers and a tank, but over the years scuba divers have made some pretty weird inventions. I mean, remember that scuba diving became popular in like the 50s, 60s and 70s? I mean, we've even had like flower power print wetsuits before. So let's take a look back through vintage scuba diving catalogues, sift through internet forums to find some truly odd scuba diving inventions, and feel free to add your own ones that you've come across in the comments below. We're easing you in gently, or at least fairly gently, with this first one. So modern open circuit design is fairly standardized. You have a roundish thing that with a button on the front, and then a mouthpiece on the back of that, and then a hose that comes in from your right-hand side. Most second stage design is fairly standardized today, and it looks a bit like that. But that doesn't stop designers from experimenting with something different. Side exhaust regulators, whilst practical, don't seem to be very popular anymore. We've seen them, a lot of people love them, but a weirder design exists, or at least used to exist. If the hose doesn't come in at the side, why not come up from underneath? Ventral second stages, like the Poseidon Triton, kind of make sense. The swivel underneath could allow the hose to come in from the left or the right hand side, and donating would be a little bit easier, but despite the price tag, the Triton didn't rate very well and they discontinued it fairly quickly. A newer design is something like the Mars XR VR, which has a fixed hose coming straight up into the second stage, which for a lot of hose routing configurations can actually make things a lot more streamlined, and you don't have a big hose coming over your left-hand shoulder. It kind of makes sense, but it's a little bit too different for a lot of divers, and as we all know, scuba divers don't like change. Now, you probably all know my views on Scuba, diving with a really, really long hose that leads up to the surface where there's a compressor is floating up on the surface and then pumping the gas down to you. Well, what if you were the compressor? No petrol or diesel costs or anything to worry about. Introducing the EXOlung. A similar concept, only instead of a petrol compressor reliably just pushing gas down to you, your legs are what's pumping the gas down to you every time that you kick your legs backwards. So EXOlung is a modern invention. You have a bellow kind of strapped to your chest, and then two straps that then go from it between your legs down to your ankles. Bear with me. When you kick your legs backwards, the straps draw the bellow back on your chest, which sucks air down from the surface for you to then breathe. You inhale that lungful of air, and the cycle repeats when you kick your legs until you get tired. A very limited depth limit based on the length of the hose, but still. The modern joke is if it's electronic, you just put Bluetooth in it. Whatever it is, just give it Bluetooth. But a lot of dive computers have Bluetooth now. It kind of makes sense and it works for them. But for the first generation of divers, they like to put snorkels on things. There are plenty of diving masks with built-in snorkels. Well, I suppose they're snorkeling masks technically, but they also made regulators with a built-in snorkel. In 1959, US divers created an upgraded version of their single-hose Aqua-Matic regulator, the Deluxe Aqua-Matic, which had a built-in snorkel. A rotate valve kind of on the front would switch the inlet from your cylinder to let's be honest, a pretty basic snorkel on the side. The second stage, like so many others around it, had straps to kind of hold it into your mouth, but the rotating valve on the front used to get really stiff, and just switching it would just twist the regulator out of your mouth. And quite often the snorkel would just kind of fall off or be taken off for the diver just because it used to get in the way. You could also find this on other models like the CG45 or the Salvus Aqua Sub, where you could literally just mount a snorkel to your mouthpiece so you never had to take it out of your mouth. Old scuba equipment catalogues are just great. They are a snapshot of the past and how divers used to dress, apparently. But cold water diving was still kind of tricky in 1977, and to help take the edge off, a company called Rayco made a protective cream for scuba divers called Cold Guard. If you find the 1977 Scuba Pro catalogue and flick through to page 15, you'll find that you could buy Cold Guard in a couple of different tub sizes, and you could use it as like a thermal wetsuit lubricant, kind of smearing it all over your skin, and it would help keep the cold out. It was made from a range of different components, including silicone. Yeah, okay, cocoa butter. It's nice. A lot of things that you put on your skin have cocoa butter. And on page 15, it lists other ingredients. What was a popular thermal insulation in the 1970s? Asbestos. It had asbestos in it. Before, obviously, we knew just how dangerous asbestos is. They don't make Cold Guard anymore. I was torn between two for this final place in this listing, but I had to settle on this snorkeling mask. Back in the day, when things like this didn't look so weird, snorkelers were diving with whatever they could find. Pearl divers, they were using bamboo to create a seal for their mask. Others were just using welding goggles to see underwater, anything they could get their hands on. But as you swim down, the goggles would squeeze into your eyes and hurt. At this time, they understood that mask squeeze was related to air volume, so in an effort to relieve mask squeeze, they just added more air volume in the form of these round rubber pearls that would shrink down the deeper down you went to reduce the mask squeeze onto your actual face. We don't make these anymore neither. Now we have like compact low volume masks in a similar idea to try and reduce the internal volume of a mask without making you look like Mickey Mouse. Because glass lenses, or at least small tiny glass lenses, were quite tricky to make at the time, you could always buy a mask volume reducer, which was basically just a rubber insert that you put into your mask and it filled most of the airspace inside of your mask so that you could then dive down deeper. So what's the weirdest scuba diving invention you've ever come across? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and of course, safe diving.